right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 2 all afternoon. Bryan Hayes, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. Tonight's a big one in Detroit, Jonas. Tonight is a big one in Detroit.
What are your expectations? Do you have any?
I have none. I could lie to you and say I think Manoah is going to be great tonight, but I'd be lying to you. And I could lie to you and say I think he's going to implode and it's going to be a disaster. I think if I were to pick one of the two extremes, I think because of his makeup, I'd lean towards him being very good tonight. Okay. As opposed to being a gas can and a mess and it's depressing and he's out of there in the first or second or third inning.
So by your makeup, you're saying what we know about his competitiveness, right?
Yes. And the fact that I know there's a pitcher in there.
Yeah.
Right? Like there is a legit stud in there. And I also will say, even if he has one of the extremes tonight, it's not a prediction of what's going to happen the rest of the way. And I would say that more about a very good start tonight. Like, let's say he has a great start. 7 innings, 1 earned, 7-8 Ks, keeps the ball in the park, is hopping off the mound, talking smack, looking great. That doesn't mean he's back. That does not mean you can project the man is officially returned. So the reactions are going to be pretty extreme, I think, one way or the other. But there's a chance he goes 5 innings, gives up 3 earned, pitches pretty well, and leaves the game. Like, that's probably what's going to happen.
Most likely.
But that's not a great take.
Do you know what concerns me the most that I'll be watching for is the walks.
Yes.
Like, we'll know right away if the control is there. And if it's not, like, why all of a sudden is that just going to be gone? Wasn't that the biggest thing?
Yes, he threw way too many pitches. He walked too many guys. And he couldn't strike people out. That's why he was throwing the amount of pitches he was.
Right.
Because, he couldn't throw strikes and he couldn't get guys to bite on his slider. That was a big part of the issue, too. Is the slider just did not have the zip on it that it had in the past. And as a result, you're talking major league hitters, they're going to be ready to go. So, yeah, you're right. That's probably the focal point tonight is how many pitches is he throwing per inning? How many guys is he giving a free pass to? But
do you know the difference between command and control? I know that's a big baseball thing, and I can never remember what the difference is, but
you don't know the difference.
I don't know the difference.
So you're just posing the question.
I just thought you might know
openly.
because they say, so I'm like, is it about his command? Is it about his control? Aren't those the same thing?
Yeah, they kind of overlap, though, wouldn't they? It's like Ross Atkins. We had Ross on yesterday, and Ross was breaking down what they're seeing in the pitching lab, where they have a pitching lab down in Dunedin where you can break down to the millisecond everything that's happening in the rotation, everything that's happening in the movement between, basically catching the ball and whenever you're going to release the ball. You can focus on every single possible speck of information. And he was suggesting it is such a small detail that was causing him issues that now they believe they've rectified that. But how quickly can it return? I think that's the question. Let's say he goes out there, throws strikes right off the bat, and then gets hit a couple of times. Does he revert back to what he was doing the previous 10, 12 starts?
Well, and does something snowball, right? Like, let's say you walk the leadoff batter who's like, didn't the Tigers score like 9 runs last night? I think they scored a bit.
They're not a great offense, though.
They're not, but let's say you walk the leadoff batter, then what happens? You know what I mean? Like, when something goes wrong, what happens? Does he pull it back, or does it kind of go where it was going before?
That's a very valid question, Jonas.
I don't know.
And I guess we'll find out tonight.
How important do you think this is, like, in the scheme of things for them?
Well, I think the moment in and of itself is significant. Like the symbolism of him returning and what they need him to represent the rest of the way. Because if you slot him back in appropriately, they don't have to acquire like a significant piece of the deadline for the rotation. You're talking depth.
Right.
I think they need to find an arm or two that they can use as a depth piece if and when they run into some injury problems. But you look at Barrios, pitched great again yesterday. He's got a 3.50 ERA.
He's back to like Minnesota.
Basically back to what they acquired. Close to it anyway. Kikuchi, not so great, but Kikuchi's your 5th starter, right? Like, that's what you're going to have.
Is it 22 homers that he's given up this year? Something like that?
When in doubt, he can get hit pretty hard, yes.
Anyway.
Kikuchi can get hit hard. But the point being is, he is your 5th. You're not asking him to be any more than that if it's slotted appropriately. If Manoah's not there, he's your 4th starter.
Right.
And then Barrios got to be your 3rd starter. But the way Gausman and Bassett have pitched so far, and the way Barrios has really had a bounce-back year, and it's been overshadowed by the Manoah story. If Manoah was just cruising, there'd be a lot more publicity being directed towards Barrios.
Yeah.
Like, you look at today being a perfect example. The guy goes out there in the first game of a doubleheader, gives him 7 strong. He was outstanding. Mm-hmm. And everyone immediately is like, okay, well, let's get to Detroit, and let's start talking about the big cat who's returning here in Alek Manoah. And I think it's legitimately one of the most anticipated starts probably in the last decade.
Woo!
I believe it is because of the amount of attention that's been directed towards the Manoah story. David Price making his first start as a Blue Jay. Remember when Marcus Stroman came back that year after he had torn his ACL? I guess Manoah's first start because of all the hype and people were waiting for it. Nate Pearson, when he finally got up, that was highly anticipated. But I think it's in that upper echelon in terms of the most focused on and anticipated starts in recent Blue Jay history. I don't think it's up for debate. I mean, this has been such a massive story all year, and he's back after a month.
Well, yeah, he was your ace, basically, or your co-ace.
Well, it wasn't just bad either. It was horrendous. Yeah. The worst pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
The worst. Like, his statistics across the board were crazy. How many pitches he was throwing, how many guys he was walking. He couldn't strike people out. The amount of jams he was getting himself into, and he simply couldn't get out of them.
Yeah.
It just kept snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. Then he goes down for a month, adds a chapter or two based on the Florida Complex League start, the New Hampshire start, and now he's back with the team coming in hot. You know, they just swept Chicago. The White Sox are not a great team, but still, Jays did what they were supposed to, and they picked up 3.
But so to your point that it's just one start, right? And you're not going to take too much from it. And we talked to Steve Phillips earlier in the week, and he kind of said, you know, they don't have a lot of time to make this choice as to whether they're going to pursue someone. Don't you just pursue someone anyway? And I'm not talking like depth. I'm talking like a starter, like a legitimate number 3. Don't you just do it anyway? Like, if he has 2 okay starts, and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're willing to gamble?
Don't you just have to? Like, isn't this all in kind of deal?
I think it is, but I think there's other areas where they probably want to continue to attack. I think they'd ideally like to add bullpen help, which I think they need. I think they need a power arm or 2 if they can get it, right? Like, right now, who do you have faith in? Romano's been very good. Mays has been outstanding.
Pearson?
Swanson's been very good. I don't have full faith in Pearson in high leverage situations down the stretch.
Okay.
Like, I'm not.
He hasn't proven it to you.
No, exactly. There's 3 guys that if you give the ball to Romano, Swanson, Meza right now.
What about Garcia?
No.
Okay. Pretty good last night.
But look at his numbers. He's got like a 4.80 ERA. Yeah. He's okay, but not like that's not World Series type level.
Fair.
High leverage guy.
Like Baltimore has basically right now.
Well, yeah, Baltimore is the cream of the crop, and there's a number of teams in baseball that have that, and I'm not expecting that between now and the end of the deadline, but I think another arm you can trust. If you can get 4 or 5 deep in the bullpen where you have faith in those arms, I think they'd rather spend their assets to acquire that because they spent all of their money, a lot of their money on the rotation. Barrios getting paid, Bassett's getting paid, Gausman's getting paid, Kikuchi's getting paid. The only guy not getting paid, relatively speaking, is Manoah, who they were getting on the cheap. And now you're getting what you pay for because he's playing as if he should be paid on the cheap.
But are you ahead if you just acquire bullpen help and you don't acquire, you know what I mean? Like, because now you don't have a starter who's going to be able to work deep in the game, so now you're going to need I don't.
Well, that
I'd rather just acquire a starter so the bullpen isn't as taxed.
Clearly, this was their philosophy. We're talking big picture 3-4 years ago. Find a 5-man rotation that you believe can give you the most innings possible and shrink your bullpen. It's a good philosophy, but
Ryu, maybe?
Hyunjin Ryu is maybe a month away. month and a half away. I don't know what he's really going to be able to bring them, but
Well, and that's the thing. Part of me is thinking like, well, you just need 3 in the playoffs, right? But you got to get to the playoffs.
mm-hmm.
They're not Tampa right now.
No, they're not. They're back in, tied for a wild card spot. They're going to be in a race the rest of the way. They're 48-40.
Yeah.
They're in the mix. I think you need to operate as if you believe you're getting in. But
And trying to win.
And trying to win. But there is a difference in terms of what the price is going to be to acquire a guy who is a third man in a pretty strong playoff caliber rotation and a depth piece.
That's why you go get Ohtani. Huh?
That's why you just empty the closets and say, take everything you want, and we'll bring Shohei into the city.
Can you imagine the buzz that would initiate here? You go get
it would be unparalleled.
Ohtani?
It would truly be unparalleled. Like I mentioned David Price, and when he was acquired, that was incredible.
Yeah.
And it was, I believe, on the heels of the Tulowitzki deal, but I can't remember which one went first. If Tulo went first or Price went first, but there was like
a buzz.
48 hours.
Yeah.
Of course. But this would be like the combination of both plus.
That's what's so strange about it.
Like it's Tulo and Price being the same guy plus.
Yeah.
That's what it would be.
Because you're basically acquiring 2 players.
You are acquiring 2
Literally.
players. Yes.
How do you trade someone who is 2 players?
Well, that would be fascinating to see what that would look like because it obviously has not happened. He came over to Japan. He's been with the Angels, and that's it. But if he were to hit the market and you're the GM in LA,
it's like I need the return for the best hitter in the league and the best pitcher.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to ask for the combination of both. Like Juan Soto, that Juan Soto deal was a monster. Now, Ohtani's going to be a free agent at the end of the year.
That's different. He would term.
And Soto had 2.5 years left of term. So clearly, San Diego was willing to pay for it. And obviously, we see what's happened since. The Padres and the Mets are a mess.
Yeah.
And they've spent that much money and those many assets to try to improve. But I would think if you're the GM of the Angels, you probably have to attack it like in the form of 2 different players, basically.
Yeah, literally.
Right? Like day one, we're going to focus on what you think you have to pay for the pitcher, Ohtani. And then call me back tomorrow and we'll talk about what you have to pay for the bat.
I like this.
And then on day 3, we'll both kind of conclude if that makes sense. It's a 3-day process.
Well, if I'm remembering right, remember Scherzer got dealt to LA last year, and I think it was for Washington's first and second best prospects. So let's say it's that just for the pitcher. Maybe more because he's better. Is he better?
He's not better than Scherzer. No, he's
okay.
not.
So the same.
Not like elite Scherzer. Ohtani is not.
I mean, last year Scherzer. Well,
he
last
was
year
still
Scherzer was really good. Okay, so
elite Scherzer.
I need your first and second best prospects for the pitcher, and then I need. How do I get more?
Well, that's I don't.
I need a good young player, and then I need more prospects.
Mm-hmm. That's why I don't think the deal can even really materialize, because how could you ever feel like you're going to get enough?
But then the choice is you just get nothing.
Well, and that's the way they operate. It's pretty silly.
How about I just get your 10 best prospects?
But I guess that's what I'm saying is you would want to call up a team that has a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think Baltimore has a lot. Cincinnati has a lot. But are those teams really feeling like we're all in right now? I don't think they are. So they're not going to trade the pieces for Ohtani for 2 months. And that's what shrinks it. Like what Tampa, would they do it? Probably not. That's not how they operate. Texas, I don't know. What do they have in their system where they'd be willing to do that? Houston, do they still have anything left? I don't know. Minnesota's not going to do it because they're not that good. The Braves. The Braves are a team you'd look at. That's a fascinating possibility.
They just had a monster June. Like maybe they're thinking, like, what do we need?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They have a plus 147 run differential in Atlanta.
Pretty good.
Plus 147.
Who's the GM over there?
The guy who got away.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and listen, Alex will swing for the fences.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm trying to get to here is I think the Dodgers would do it, but I don't know what they have in the system.
Well, they traded away so much.
Been in on a lot of trades over the years. The Yankees, I don't think are going to do it because I don't know if they would. The Yankees probably would, but I don't know what they'd be willing to give up. Like for the Jays, if you're looking at the Jays, you're talking, is it Tiedemann? Is it Martinez? Is it?
You mean
you just
all of
going
it.
and going and going? That's what I'm saying. Like at some point, you're talking 3, 4, 5 prospects.
Yeah.
and they're all in the top 7 or 8 in the organization for a guy that very well could walk. That's what just makes it a very difficult practice. It would take a lot of courage to pull that off. And I think it would be mandatory you go to your owner before you pull the trigger and ask your owner, are you willing to pay this guy if he likes it here and he's willing to stay?
Do we have $600 million?
Do you have enough money? And do you have the stomach where if we acquire Shohei Ohtani and he shows up and he goes, I like this place, and this is somewhere I'm willing to stick around, are you willing to spend the money? Because that would be infuriating if you're a GM, where you get the go-ahead to acquire him. You unload basically everything you have in the system. And then Ohtani at the end of the year wants to stick around, and your owner goes, I'm not paying for that.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of owners would say that. So I think 25 owners in the league would just say, I'm not doing that. I'm not, maybe not 25, but at least 20.
It's under 5 who probably pay that price, right? It's the Dodgers, the Yankees, maybe the Rangers.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money recently, though, but possibly. The Giants, I think, would possibly spend on him.
Sure.
I think San Francisco would. I think the Sox of the past would. I don't think this new ownership group would.
No, they just didn't want to pay bets.
Mm-hmm. You know, the Cubs, no. Like, the Cubs ownership is not in that position.
Do you think this is the most unprecedented trade potentially we've had ever in sports?
Because of what we've established, in the last 20 minutes, is that you're acquiring 2 players. You're acquiring 2 players.
But so that's what's so appealing. Like, if you're the Jays, suddenly he's your number 1 starter and he's your number 3 hitter, like in the lineup.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Like, that's what you're acquiring. You're acquiring a guy who's going to get the ball possibly game 1.
Yeah, not possibly.
Yeah. I mean, Gosman has had a great year.
He has.
Gosman's been right there with Shohei on the mound.
MVP, but okay.
Yeah, but MVP because he does both. I mean, he's a great arm. I'm not downplaying it, but I'm just saying you could, if Gosman started game 1, I don't think there'd be a riot in the street.
Fair.
Right? Okay. But he's getting the ball. There's no debate if he's on, if he's a part of your rotation. For a 2-game wild card, if that's what it's going to be, he's either game 1 or game 2. And he's going to hit, middle of your order.
Right. Your lineup will go Springer, Bichette, Ohtani.
Probably Shohei, Vladdy. I like the sound of that.
All right.
Yeah. I think that seems pretty reasonable. I don't know why Ross Atkins is, what's he up to? What's he waiting for? And I guess it takes 2 to tango, right? It's on the Angels to realize they stink again. They're a game over 500. They're not going to make the playoffs. And enough is enough.
I feel for them this year. This was the first year where it's like, they
do this all the time.
Yeah, but their team had never been like this.
They always do the same thing. The first 50 games, they're like, 30 and 20. They always come out of the chute pretty hot.
All right.
And then Trout gets hurt. The starting rotation sucks. They start losing a bunch of games, and then they fade, and they end up with like 78 wins.
Yeah.
75, 72. It's the same thing every single year. I think it was incredibly predictable. But, yeah, I'm curious to see what that could look like. We got Craig Monroe will join us from the Tigers TV crew, and he'll give us his take on what he's anticipating out of Manoah tonight. How big of a story is this league-wide? Because Alek Manoah, he's a big name in Toronto, but I think last year he made himself not a household name. You got to be in the league for a long time for household league, name type of recognition. But what he did at the All-Star game, getting the ball in game 1 of the wild card.
Going at Garrett Cole,
making a lot of noise on MLB Network all the time. Like, everyone is well aware of who Alek Manoah is. How big of a start is this outside of Toronto? His return. So Craig will join us. We got Max Domi on the show. Max coming up just after 5 o'clock on his decision to sign with the Leafs, and how cool is this going to be for him? Another Domi in town. The first Domi you'll cover, I guess, Jonas. Were you around when Ty was still here? He must have just left.
A little while.
Like, 08, 09, I think Ty retired.
Did he?
He definitely played the first 2 years out of the lockout because O was on both teams.
05, 06, yeah. Well, I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe 07, 08 he retired. But, yeah, it's been a good 15 years. But, yeah, Max is he's back in town.
That must be so surreal for him,
For Ty or for Max?
Both, but for Max especially, like, He literally was in that dressing room when he was a kid, walking around, and like Sundin was like his idol. I don't know. Like, what did you make of those signings? We never actually talked about those.
I liked them. I really like the Bertuzzi deal. I think Max Domi is a big spotlight player. Like, I think you look at his first year in Montreal, I don't know if he's going to be here forever. Like, the likelihood of him playing the next 10 years in Toronto is very slim. That just is not the way the NHL
5
operates.
years is unlikely.
Exactly. And with the salary cap and who else is going to be here and who else is going to be signed. But I think he'll relish the opportunity. My fear for Max Domi is that he's too hyper. He's too, jacked to be a Leaf. And he's just got to stay within his own zone, right? Like, he's not Ty. No one's expecting him to be Ty because he doesn't play like Ty.
No.
Like, he is an offensive, not a juggernaut, but he's a really smart player. He's a really good playmaker. And he's a big playoff performer. Like, he had a really good playoff in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And, he did when he was in London. He did with the World Juniors. So I think he's a spark in terms of the playoffs as much as it's going to help them throughout the regular season. And then, Reeves is a different beast, but I think he'll be entertaining. I think he'll be fun to have in town. I think you're going to enjoy covering these guys. Because Mac's a big personality. Ryan Reeves is a big personality. I think this team needs that. I do. I think simply from an entertainment standpoint, putting aside the whole playoffs and are they going to win and all that kind of stuff, it's a long season. And this team, a lot of times, it's the same guys coming out saying the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a part of the attack here, was bring in Max Domi. Tyler Bertuzzi, I think, is a pretty big personality. And Ryan Reeves is a big personality. And allow them to come out and talk and hopefully add a little bit of spice. And I anticipate that'll happen.
You don't think they had that by the end of last year?
With who?
O'Reilly,
though.
Shen.
Oh, yeah.
Bunting is basically...
Bunting never spoke. I never heard Bunting.
Yeah.
I don't remember him ever being interviewed. I never remember him in intermission.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anything.
Yeah, fair
Like, I don't remember any comments from him where it was like, wow, that's wild. Like, that's an inflammatory comment, or that's going to lead to some sort of a response.
I just don't know how much you'll hear from, like, Ryan Reeves. Like, how much...
I don't think you can avoid hearing from Ryan Reeves.
Okay. I think there's going to be a game in November where something will happen. He'll fight, and that will happen. They'll talk to him after, and it will be all about he's bringing something different. He's defending, and then I'm looking ahead to the playoffs, and I think it will be different, and that's why.
Yeah, I'm with you in the playoffs. Like, I think it's obviously important. Everything they do in terms of building the team is how do they have success in the playoffs.
Yes.
And I don't think Ryan Reeves pushes them anywhere in that direction.
No.
But he's going to play. He will play.
Is he?
Likely.
Okay.
Likely. I mean, listen, he's played almost, I think, 110 playoff games in his career.
Yeah, he's also going to be 37 when the playoffs start.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But they give him a 3-year deal.
Yes.
Like, they are committed to Ryan Reeves, and they're committed to what he represents.
All right. We'll see. I'm with you. Like, I like the Bertuzzi signing. I like the Domi signing. I don't love the Klingberg signing. I sort of get it, but I don't love it.
But he seems like the kind of guy, you put him in a better situation. Like, everyone talks about his defensive metrics, and they're terrible. Yeah, but understandably. But Anaheim is horrendous.
Okay, but here's the problem with that. Look back to Dallas. The same thing at the end. The same.
Yeah. Individually, but the team, not a problem, is my point. Like, if the other guys on the ice with him are helping him.
But are they with this team? Like, I
thought they were a pretty good defensive team last year.
And they've gotten worse defensive players, right?
How?
Okay, so they went from O'Reilly, Achari. Who else am I missing?
Kerfoot.
How
about your boy Justin Hall? How did Hall look in the first round?
Okay.
It is not possible for John Klingberg to be worse than Justin Hall.
Okay.
Not possible. He'd be the worst defenseman on earth in the first round. He will be better than what Hall was against Tampa.
He was the Wild's number 5 defenseman, so take that for what it's worth. Those forwards are good defensive forwards, right? Mm-hmm. All of them. Mm-hmm. One had won a Selke trophy, if I'm not mistaken.
Ryan O'Reilly is an outstanding two-way player.
Domi, Bertuzzi, weaker defensive players. Reeves, we just talked about, is probably going to barely play. Mm-hmm. They're worse defensively, right?
Well, I mean, there's 18 guys that are on the ice every night. So, yes, individually compared to those players,
yeah,
I'll grant you that. But I can't speak to the systems with the other teams. I can't speak to what they were expected to do, who you're going to have on the ice in certain situations. Like O'Reilly, you have on the ice. They probably will not put Max in that situation.
You got to put someone. He's playing, right? Like you look at their lineup; those guys are going to play on their top 2 lines, right? Top 3 lines.
Yeah, I don't know. Max will move around, but Bertuzzi will for sure.
For sure. I don't know what we're arguing. What are we arguing?
You're arguing that
I think they're going to be worse defensively.
Much worse defensive. Are they much worse defensively or just worse defensively?
Just worse. I don't know about much worse. They've lost some of their best defensive players. You tend to get worse, right?
Yeah. Now it's post-deadline. Yeah. But, prior to the deadline, they were still a top 10 defensive team that were well on their way to being a top 6 or 7 team in the league.
Yeah, okay.
O'Reilly and Achari helped that, clearly.
Yeah, okay.
They can't acquire guys at the trade deadline that will help in the same way?
Good call. I don't love their defense right now.
I don't either.
It feels very
I don't love their defense either.
Done.
But I also think it's unfair to compare the team today to what they looked like Game 6 against Tampa.
Fair.
Because a lot of the work that gets done in the NHL now from the high-end teams are at the trade deadline.
Now we're moving ahead. Are they going to have a lot to trade at the trade deadline?
Trade for?
Trade with.
In terms of prospects and picks and stuff. Well, I guess.
More picks.
Dubas kept finding them.
Okay.
No? I mean, why would...
I don't know. The picks are like all gone.
Well, there's always picks, Jonas.
Okay.
They don't have picks? Like, come on, man. They obviously have draft picks. It doesn't mean they're going to trade them.
Go look at the cupboard. Anyway, we should...
Yeah, your boy Dubas left them in a pretty tough spot, didn't he?
He's trying to win a cup.
How'd that work?
Didn't.
Not so good. All right, we'll come back with more on that. Max Domi will join us. And Jays Tigers tonight. Alek Manoah returning. What can we expect out of Alek? We'll get to that next. OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We asked a very simple question to people on Twitter. What are your expectations for Alek Manoah heading into his return in Detroit tonight? And really not getting positive responses.
What were the options?
It's open-ended. You tell us.
I see.
Like, write in. What do you think? And there's some people that are feeling optimistic, but there's a number of people that are like, this is going to get ugly. And I think that's natural. I mean, that probably speaks to the psychology of a fan base in general. Half the people are optimistic. Half of them are pessimistic. And do they ever meet in the middle?
No.
I guess if there's a championship, could meet in the middle. And if you're like tanking and I don't know.
Where do you think you are? Pessimist or optimist?
Depends on the team.
But like in general?
General, I lean pessimist.
Just a little, right?
I lean towards pessimism.
Okay.
Yeah. And at times it can be extreme. Admittedly, it can be very extreme.
For like the Leafs?
I would say with the Leafs, I'm alt pessimist.
Wonder why?
Yeah, I can be pessimistic, admittedly. But there are times where I'm feeling optimistic. Like during the regular season, I'm generally very optimistic. And early in a playoff series, I'm optimistic. It's when you get to the end of the round where that really starts to twist, right? Jays and Raptors, around the middle. Packers, very optimistic. I actually think they're going to be a lot better than people think this year.
Betting on Jordan Love?
Not so much Jordan Love, but I think if you put a line together, which I think they have, a run game, I think their defense is sneaky good. Sneaky good. And the division stinks.
Also true.
Right? Like, who are you worried about if you're a Packer fan? The Vikings? Possibly. They'll take a step back. The Lions? Come on. Bears? Jonas. Right? Come on. How can you not be optimistic? If you're
Maybe
a
the
Packer
Fields
fan?
breakout's going to happen.
Maybe. It's possible. All right. Here's former MLBer, now an analyst with Bally Sports down in Detroit. He'll be in the building calling a game tonight. Here's Craig Monroe. How you doing, Craig?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. We're excited for Alek Manoah to return tonight. Obviously, this is a massive story in Toronto, but I'm curious what you make of it. I mean, you're well aware of his story, what he represents. You know, he's been gone for a month. It's really been a sloppy season for him. What are you expecting out of him tonight?
Well, I'm expecting him to get back to that all-star form that we saw last year when he was dominant. Finished, third in the Cy Young voting. I just feel like, again, when guys have success early on, and it's unfortunate because you feel like now you go into it expecting things to happen, but you have to continue to put in the work to allow it to happen. And I just feel like maybe he got a little bit, not lazy, because you definitely never want to talk about anybody being lazy, but I don't think he was lazy. I just think that he got himself in a little trouble not working maybe as hard as he worked prior to getting to the big leagues and having that success. But I just look forward to hopefully him getting back on track. And always been a big fan of him from afar. So I'd like to see him get back to those dominant ways. And it's always good for the game.
Craig, what was it like for you in your career when you were facing a pitcher that you knew was struggling?
Well, no, I never forgot about how good he can be. And so you would always do, you respect what he's accomplished. But you hope that, the time that you do face him, if he's struggling, this is when you can make your money. This is where you can do some damage against him. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. The Tigers are excited about the fact that they get an opportunity to face a Manoah that's not at his best. Gives them an opportunity, hopefully, to win a baseball game.
Right. Yeah, I guess, you don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I'm sure there were a number of times he'd step up to the plate. You're like, I feel good about me getting on base here, right? Or possibly hitting a home run.
You want to face the guys when they're struggling. And you definitely don't want to face the ace of the staff when they're at their best. It could be a long night.
Right.
I mean, even with Manoah, the potential there, even, coming back today, it could still be a long night because he has that bulldog mentality. He has that competitive edge, I believe, every time he takes the mound. So he's fun to watch. I like that he talked the talk, and he was talking the talk with John Smoltz, when he was mic'd up during the game, calling pitches. So the confidence is not going to be a problem for him. So I'm looking forward to watching him go out and see what he can do today against the Tigers.
Yeah, we love we're always talking about big personalities in pro sports, and you've been around the game for a long time, and we saw the scene earlier this week between the Reds and the Nationals, and the unwritten rules of baseball, et cetera. Where do you stand on the game benefiting from having young guys who are boisterous and a bit rambunctious out there and willing to have fun?
I'm like King Griffey Jr., man. Let the kids play. Let the kids have some fun. These guys are enjoying themselves. They're showing off personality. The game is in a great place when you're looking around all the different teams, the 30 teams in the big league, where these guys are 20, 21, 22 years old. I mean, being very impactful for the organization. And I just think that's good for the game. So many times, younger players that come to a baseball game, and they don't really love it because they don't. The players, you're supposed to act like you've done it before. There's no personality. Well, that has changed with this younger group, and quite frankly, I love it. I love that they're hitting home runs and watch them. They've got their little antics around the base. I love the dugout celebration. I think it's good for the game. I think it's growing the game, and I think young players that are like Dixie Youth and coming up through the Little League, I feel like it's making the game more exciting for them. And now baseball won't be considered boring to these kids now. Like, they love going to basketball games, even the hockey games. But now baseball, I feel like, is showing more personality, man, and I couldn't be more excited.
What was it like for you? Like, did you ever do like a bat flip? Did you do any like celebration, or was that just like you didn't play that long ago? Was it just like a total no-go for you?
No, I'm not going to say no-go, because if I hit a couple, and if I hit one really far, about 450 feet, yeah, I'm going to watch it for a little bit. And then if they didn't like it, I figured, if you don't like it, get me out,
Right.
At the same time, we see pitchers, get out of a big situation. They coming off the mound, they're pumping their fists. They're, doing whatever they want to do when they're out there. So, no, I just think it's always important to allow the personalities to be and quit trying to put everybody in the same box. I get the game of baseball for a long time. It's America's sport, America's game. And, you got, it's a certain, we held to a higher standard as far as class. But, man, you're big kids playing a game. How do you not allow the guys to allow that personality and the excitement of being a big leaguer come out? So, no, I was one of the guys that I was scream, yelling, make a play, dive, pump my fist, hit a homer, watch it, all that good stuff, because I thought it was me just being a big kid and enjoying some of the accomplishments. And it's not showing up it's not showing up the opposing pitcher. It's just being excited about something that I did while I'm living out my childhood dream.
With Tigers analyst Craig Monroe, Jays Tigers tonight, Alek Manoah back on the mound. Be a lot of Canadians down there, Craig. You anticipate that whenever the Jays roll through Detroit?
Oh, every time. There's going to be a lot of Blue Jays jerseys. Mm-hmm. It'll be, they're going to be loud. This is a good rivalry. We're trying to build it up as a rivalry because you guys are so close. But it's fun. It's good for the game. I wish we played you guys more often where it could be a bigger deal, because you are absolutely right. There will be a lot of Toronto Blue Jays fans at Comerica Park today. We got the players only going today on Bally Sports. We're going to be up in right field and on the concourse, just hanging out with fans, talking baseball, and hopefully we get some fans and Toronto fans to come over and join us on the show.
Yeah.
It should be a good day.
Absolutely.
It'll be a great weekend because we're going to be there the whole weekend. So, no, we're looking forward to how loud this place can be, even with Toronto fans being as loud as they're going to be. The Tiger fans will have to match them, even though we're in two different places. I feel like you guys are no question ahead of the Tigers when it comes to an organization standpoint right now, as far as being a competitive team and being able to hopefully get a chance to win you guys' division. Mm-hmm. And it's a tough one. That American League East, you guys don't have it easy with the way Tampa plays, and obviously you always got the Yankees and then Baltimore. But, no, this should be fun. This should be an exciting series.
Well, you're right. You look at it, the Jays are 48-40, yet they're 8 games back of the top spot in the East, and yet the Tigers are 38-48, and they're 6 back of the Twins. So,
yeah, exactly. That goes to show you.
Yeah. This
division is not that. No, the division. You got to call a square square. The division is not that good. Probably one of the weakest divisions in all of baseball. Mm-hmm. And again, if this team continue to develop, get better as they have, especially offensively, I really think that this division is wide open. No team's just running away with it.
Yeah, that's got to be the feeling, right? And the Tigers, you guys, they reloaded, right? You had that great run all those years. You were a big part of that back in 2006 and beyond that, even with Verlander and Scherzer and all that stuff. It was a great run with Miggy. But does it feel like it's moving in a direction where the Tigers are going to get back to where, they're a truly competitive team in the next year or two?
Well, you know what? It does feel like that. Now with Scott Harris as the president of baseball operations, there is direction now. They have a plan. And Tiger fans are going to have to obviously allow the plan to materialize. But he's got the right pieces. They're preaching the right thing. Control the strike zone, both sides of the ball. Play 27 outs. They love the matchups. Now we've integrated analytics with your gut. AJ does an excellent job of mixing, matching, giving hitters and pitchers favorable matchups where he feels like they can win that battle. So I think from an organization standpoint, it's not too far-fetched to believe that this Tigers offense and this Tiger team will be competing here, hopefully in the next couple of years.
Well, have a fun one tonight and throughout the weekend. There'll be a lot of Toronto Blue Jay fans down there, so try to keep them in check if you can, Craig, and we appreciate you doing this.
All right, that sounds good. Appreciate you guys.
You got it. Craig Monroe, former Tiger, MLBer, Bally Sports, Detroit analyst. Players only out in right field. I wonder what that looks like.
You get insulted when they do players only as No,
I love it because when it's players only, I realize how integral I am. You give it and Noodles and whoever else. They can do it for a show, and I credit them. I don't know if they could do it longer. Come on back and give it a shot whenever you're ready. They can do it as long as they want. But I get the impression after a show or two, it's all right, that's enough. Right? That's enough.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm thinking back to Manoah now. I've moved on.
So did you answer how you're feeling about what he's going to do tonight?
I'm dubious.
Yeah.
And I lean more.
So you're more optimistic or pessimistic?
No. In life, you lean pessimist. I lean optimist. If there's the thing in the center, what is that called? You know what I'm picturing? Like
like a Venn diagram.
Yeah, I'm in the optimist camp.
Okay.
But
There is a middle part of that.
it was just 2 starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one was really bad and one was good.
Well, one was relatively good with Double-A batters.
Right. So
it's very difficult to read.
So I don't know what to make of that at all.
Yeah.
It kind of almost means nothing. Like
No, I don't think it means. I don't think the actual start, like the Jays are trying to sell people on the starts meaning nothing. That it was more about the reset. That it was about him leaving for a month. I think getting in better shape, and I think finding some sort of rhythm. Like there was, I don't know if it was 80-20, 70-30, 60-40, physical or mental, but it was a combination of both. Like this wasn't
one mushrooms into the other. Right?
Exactly. This was not a 100% physical reset.
Right.
This was a physical and mental reset. And I think that's what Craig is saying. Like now this guy's reset and he's come back up here. He kind of sounded like he's anticipating this guy having an outing tonight. And I think that speaks to Manoah's reputation that people are aware of what he's capable of doing.
He's got swagger, right?
Yes. And now he's been embarrassed. And now he's been recalled. He's got a lease on life here.
But the only thing is,
I hope he takes advantage of it. It'll be a great story.
To your earlier point about competitiveness, sometimes when you're trying to do too much, especially as a pitcher, doesn't go great.
No,
right?
it's a slippery slope for sure. Yeah, it can get dangerous.
Yeah.
All right, Max Domi in about 20 minutes. Max Domi will join us here on OverDrive. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Max Domi at 5 o'clock. Some crazy Tom Brady stories out there, Jonas. I don't know if you're keeping up to date.
So I'm aware of the crypto one. I'm not aware of the other stuff.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Because the other stuff is way more interesting than the crypto stuff. The crypto stuff, FTX, that was his big thing. He wasn't alone. There were a lot of big celebrities that got duped by FTX. And he lost like over $30 million, apparently.
Yes.
Which is a massive amount of change.
But I was reading he took, I guess, money like in stock, right? And so what happened?
I guess what you're suggesting is he didn't put his own money in. He was just supposed to be given $30 million worth of stock and it disappeared.
Him to be an endorser?
I don't know all of the details.
He took stock and the stock is worthless.
And at the time it valued out to be a certain amount of money. So I guess from that standpoint, I guess technically you might say didn't lose anything.
Didn't lose anything.
His reputation takes a hit.
Yeah.
Maybe he was, building towards a future, including that $30 million. I wonder if Fox is thinking this is good for us because we want him in the booth, and they're going to pay him. What was it, $330 million or something like that?
Yeah, wasn't it a 10-year contract?
Yeah, it was like over $30 million a year for him to come to Fox
for that first broadcast. I'm kind of intrigued.
I'm very intrigued. I'm like, listen, Tom Brady's an interesting guy. I have said on the record, I don't think he's going to be great because I don't think of him as a personality.
No,
like in New England, it was the complete opposite. He just doused water on everything, and he didn't give you anything. And I understand how great of a football player he is. I understand he's really smart. He's got incredible work ethic. He'll try. I don't think he'll be like terrible.
Well, you never know.
But that's it. You got to have personality. You got to have jump. And until we see it, you can't really have a take on it one way or the other. But the rumor that's really out there is that him and Kim Kardashian apparently could be moving in a certain direction, Jonas.
Like an item?
Possibly an item. Wow. TB12 and Kim Kardashian. Do you imagine Tom Brady?
I would say, I don't watch the show, but it would be a pretty good episode. Like if they could tease that, you know what I mean? Like on the next episode.
Are they still doing that show?
I believe so, yeah.
How much more material could there be? Like it's all fraudulent stuff anyway.
It's their life.
No, yeah, but it's not really their life.
It's their life.
Yeah, like there's clearly producers and script, like they're creating events.
Yeah.
Right? Like did Kanye, he just got written off, I guess. Like Kanye must have been on that show.
I think he was on it when it was.
Yeah, he had to be. So they just killed off the character that was Kanye?
Right.
In Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
Yeah, now you bring in Tommy?
Yeah. Lamar Odom was on that for a while.
Yeah.
Chris Humphries for like 80 days. Yeah, Pete Davidson. You're right. Pete Davidson was kicking around there for a while.
There you go. It's just content.
Yeah, now
It's
TB12.
almost, even if it's not real, they should just play it up.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. The Kardashians know how to promote themselves, and they know how to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
They made a lot of money, and maybe that's what TB12's thinking here. It's like, I lost a lot of money on this FTX thing.
Well, now he can hawk his clothing. Doesn't he have a clothing line?
Yeah, he does. You're right. You get on that Kardashian Instagram account, you're going to make some cash. He's a smart man. Maybe it's just love is in the air, Jonas. Why are you such a cynic? Why couldn't they just, like each other?
Oh.
You don't buy that option?
No.
You're not feeling that? Okay. Hour 2 coming up. Max Domi will join us. Max Domi coming up. We'll get his take on what it's going to be like to be a Maple Leaf. And how did the decision come about? And what kind of role does he think he's going to play? So we'll catch up with Max. And Freddie Coleman at ESPN Radio will join us as well. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.